Hello, I'm Richard Vobes, the Bald Explorer, and I'm out on another exploration. Well, I'm absolutely surprised, first of all, because I've come out prepared for rain and cold, and the sun is shining, so we are blessed. Today, I'm in Tortington, just southwest of Arundel by about 1.5 miles, something like that. And I'm starting my walk from, this is kind of a church to a priory walk, not church to church, but church to a priory walk. I'm starting here at St. Mary Magdalene, this wonderful, beautiful gem of a church here that's now run by the church's Conservation Trust. It's a beautiful, beautiful church. I really like this one. I haven't been here before, so this is all new to me. The detail here on the door, that sort of Norman chevrons and stuff, and the little, I guess they must be pineapples, are they? Or pomegranates, or someone's going to correct me and say what it is, and I'm going to go, oh yeah, that's the fruit that I didn't think of. But that's always the way when you're out filming and suddenly your brain goes dead. The church, from what I understand, was first founded in about 1150, so soon after the Norman invasion, as they were coming across from, I guess, from Hastings and putting up churches and castles and that sort of thing, although 1150 is, 100 years later from 1066, of course. That's not to say that there wasn't anything here before, of course. I understand that this land apparently was tilled by a freeman, an Anglo-Saxon freeman by the name of Leo Phryne. I don't know how you pronounce these words, so please don't have a go at me. It's Leo Phryne, perhaps that's how it's pronounced. Maybe they had different accents back then, who knows. So there may have been some sort of Saxon church here, but I'm going to go and have a look and see if I can get inside and have a look around the church, and then the plan is to take a stroll up to the old priory, which is a little, I guess about a mile or less than a mile away, just up the road, that incorporated this church after when it was built. Some people think that this was built as a result of the priory, but the church here, St. Mary Magdalene, predates the priory altogether. I should warn you, there's nothing to see. It's on a farm, and I won't be able to get in. But I'm going to take the stroll anyway that the monks possibly have made back in the day. Well, this is a very lovely church, and very little seems to have been done to it. I'm sure there's been some alterations and what have you. There's a keystone just above the chancel arch that I think says 1750 on it, where some changes have happened. But the splayed windows look pretty original, so that's great. And same with the carvings and things. They certainly look from a very ancient time, which is fantastic to see. I'm very thrilled. Unfortunately, the church is now decommissioned as a church, so it's in the care of, I say, the church's Conservation Trust. So I don't know whether they still hold services, but not regular ones. Perhaps they rent the church out for weddings and special events and things like that. But it's in a state. It's such an important church. It wouldn't surprise me if it's not Grade 1 listed. I don't know for sure, but it's in such a wonderful preservation. And there's the lights. They've got lights that come on and off. And if I wave my arms, I actually have to leave the seat and come round there to get it back on again. But what a fantastic church. Decommissioned in 1978, I think, as a church. and I suppose the area around Tortington has a very small congregation, if at all, and probably just got to the point where it was too expensive to keep it going. But beautiful place, and so important to keep these churches, absolutely vital. I know some people would write them off, but they are so part of our heritage and so important as part of the story of England that we really must do our best to preserve them as much as we can. Well, it's an absolutely lovely church, and I love all the different types of flint and sandstone here. Apparently Cairn stone is also used in this, in the makeup of the church. It's interesting to note, actually, that in the 1901 census, and I don't know why this is, that the church that is now dedicated to St. Mary Magdalene, and had been for ages, was actually listed down as St. Thomas. I'm not quite sure why that would have been, but it's definitely St. Mary's now. Just trying to make out, see if I can read some of the words on this grave. There's an aeroplane going overhead, you can probably hear that. Well, actually, we're not too far away from Ford Aerodrome, which I think must be round the back of this somewhere, because Ford is, no, wait a minute, just down that way, I think, to the south of where we are. Ford Aerodrome used in the war. I think there's now a marketplace that's held there. Can't read much on this one, but the other grave next to it dates from 1917, during the First World War. This is interesting. I found this quite interesting, that in order to get here from the van where I parked in the road, you have to go across Tortington Manor. Now, I don't think that that's the original manor by any means, because it's a lovely new looking building with fairly immaculate lawns and what have you. So presumably there was an old manor house here, and directly opposite the other side of the church is Manor Farm. So I'm wondering whether that used to be where the manor house was. I crossed it as I came in here. You get across the lawns and stuff on the public footpath, I should hasten to add, and I'm going to go back that way as I head towards the Augustan Priory, which I think dates from the 14th century, if I've got that right, and make my way across the fields to there, which is the other end of my video, as it were. And so I assume, but now there's this lovely modern building, and presumably it's a residence, or it's a conference centre, or an education centre, or something like that. I'm not quite sure, but it looks very nice. So we're going to go the other side of that and cross the fields. West Sussex County Council footpath is what it says. So once again, got to cross Tortington Manor's lawn, which must upset the residents, I imagine, from time to time. A lady popped out as I came out the gate at the other end and just looked at me as if I was an alien going across, or a trespasser, but clearly it's marked and you can do that. So I've come across here the front of the house, and as you can see, it's quite a palatial thing, and I think it's probably just residences now. And I'm going to head up along this footpath. What's interesting, I think, is this must be an ancient track. I mean, the fact that it goes across, they probably could not have it rerouted onto the road, even though that might be a very simple thing. This must have been an ancient track, I say ancient, but a very old track from the priory to the church and the monks, and I gather that there were 5 canons and 1 prior at the priory, and they must have come down here, I suppose, to preach and do whatever they do back in the day. So quite an old track this. Now it's going across a field of crops, and luckily it's still here and we can still go on it, which is absolutely important and essential. So we've got to make use of these things. Now, I don't want to be the what would you call it, the footpath police or anything like that by any means, but this footpath I think should by rights be a certain width, a public footpath. This is about a foot, and as you can see, I'm only just encompassed that. I'm not sure that is technically right. However, I don't want to upset the farmer, because there is a delineation that's very clear and you've got access, and they have thought about it, and I've been on many footpaths where the farmers haven't bothered to put the footpath in. So I'm not having a moan, but I think by rights, actually, on a public footpath, you are even allowed to stop and have a bit of a picnic, as long as you don't go across the other parts of the field. That's what I understand. Now, I know there are people who know these things. I should know them. People have told me them. I've forgotten them. I'm sorry about that. But yeah, at least the footpath is here. You can see the grand house behind me. And that must have been where the original manor was, I assume. Who knows? But it's got a lovely flat view. Anyway, we're going up now towards the second farm, which is Priory Farm, which encompasses the ruins, such as there are, at the Augustan Priory of St Mary's, which is just ahead of me. Well, I've come now to the end of my destination here at, according to the sign there, Tortington Priory Barn. The barn, I think, was erected in the 18th century, and from the remnants of the priory, once after the dissolution of the monasteries in 1536, a lot of the masonry from the priory was pilfered, as was the case in many of them, for all sorts of different buildings, possibly for building other farms and the manor house and various bits and bobs. So all that was left now was this barn, and a part, I understand, of the original nave wall, but we can't access it, which is a shame. The priory itself got a bit of a bad reputation, and monks were sent there if they had been on bad behaviour, and it was undesirable to be sent there because it was very lax. The servants apparently were a bit incompetent, they weren't very skillful, and it seems that a bad time was had by all, according to what I read. Anyway, I'm sorry I can't show you any more, but there it is. We managed to do it. So probably the walk that I've done, as I said earlier, a bit of an ancient walk, a fascinating area to explore more of. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Don't forget to follow, like and subscribe, become a patron, and give me a thumbs up if you did. I'll see you on another one. Until next time, bye-bye.